Stewart, and I'm from the FDIC. And my colleague, Lisa, will introduce herself, and Eric will introduce himself. And really what we want to share with you today is focus on the process that we went through in working our way through various phases of the apprenticeship program with Next Learn. It was really, really valuable to us, and we thought others might share in hearing a bit from us. And just before we get started, if you could just, a show of hands, how many of you actually have produced or developed any simulations yourself? Just, oh, Jean, you mean you've done some simulations? That gives us a little feel for who's there. So Lisa's going to get us started.
Well, like Tanis was saying, I'm Lisa Scott and I'm with the FDIC. And one of our missions when we first got started with developing courseware, and of course as years go on, we want to increase our engagement and increase what we know and give the users different experiences. So someone had went to a conference and came back and said, oh, simulations are the next best thing. You need to get into simulations. So of course, now we're here. We developed the simulation. The first simulation we developed had to do with, the banking crisis had started back up, and you had all these examiners and all of these liquidators going out, and we had to ramp up and hire people that we had let go years ago and bring them back on board, but of course things had changed. So we're in a position where, okay, you're bringing these people back on board. They have prior experience, but things have changed since they've been in banks. So how do we get the new experience? Now, we also didn't have the experience on board anymore. So we have to look outside to bring experience inside. We have people in banks, they don't have time for training. How do you get them trained? And one of the first things we developed was an agricultural loan simulation, because at that time they were saying that's the next biggest bug. Ag loans, ag loans, ag loans. So we hired SMEs from the outside to give us the content base that we needed. We had our people on the inside who had limited knowledge on ag loans in the past. So I needed to bring all of these people together, and meanwhile being told, put it in a simulation. So my first thing was, okay, I need to find a contractor. I need to find someone who knows something about building a simulation. And NextLearn had did some work for another government agency, so of course they got a stamp of approval. So we bring NextLearn on board, but we also were faced with, okay, this is just one simulation. We want to build simulations again in the future. So how do we capitalize on bringing in this company so that we learn from them, so that we can bring that skill set in-house? And we worked with NextLearn, and we came up with an apprenticeship process. And so this is pretty much our sharing of what it is we went through with NextLearn. So.
Okay. And I am Eric Shiblom. I work with NextLearn. I do product support. I work as the project lead on our side with both Tanis and Lisa. And basically we helped them through the apprenticeship process and got them through to the end of it to where they can be self-sufficient. So I guess here's where we begin the presentation. Okay.
So as I said, our objectives were to get the skill sets we needed really quick with limited resources, and to also train ourselves so that we can do it in the future. So the new system was, we've never used SimWriter before, so getting SimWriter and then having to sit actually on the phone with Eric while he was programming things in order to find out what it was he was doing and how he was going about doing it. And again, we wanted to be able to reuse SimWriter for future use. We needed to understand that system. Okay, so the first part.
It's kind of like a magic trick. As far as they were concerned, somehow magically this simulation was created. Now, I am way better at programming than I am at doing magic tricks. So please bear with me. Don't heckle me. Okay, I've got a deck of cards. It's a regular deck of cards. I'm going to shuffle them a little bit. If I can shuffle them. Okay. And then I'm going to pull up the top three. Let's see. Okay. So now, somebody who can see the cards, this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. So somebody choose 1, 2, or 3. You want to do it?
Do you have a volunteer?
Any volunteers?
2. I took 2.
You take 2? Okay.
Yeah, you want me to
and you can see what the card is?
I can see the number.
You can see the number?
Oh, okay. That's not face.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
You're a clam.
Oh, there you go. That's okay. So, what I'm going to do is, you said 2, right? 2? Okay, I'm going to take 1, put it in the deck, and I'm going to take that card and put it in the deck right there. Now, the third one, I'm going to put inside this little carrying case. It's the one after it. So I'm going to put it right there. And so we can see it's the 8 of hearts. Okay, now I am going to make your card appear at the top. There's a little bit of showmanship, but I'm not really good at that. So is that your card?
No.
No?
No.
Is that your card?
Nope.
You sure?
Positive.
What about now?
Yeah, that's it.
Very good, very good. So there was magic. And if you didn't see all of my really horrible sleight of hand, you might not actually know how it's done. But what we're going to do, it's kind of like the apprenticeship process. We do the work up front, then we show you how to do the work, and then you do it while we watch. So the apprenticeship process goes like this. As you can see, kind of like a magic trick, we did it up front, ended up with a simulation. So would you like to expand on the parts?
Similar to what Eric just did, where he performed for you. That's pretty much what he did for me when I first brought X-Learn on board. We came up, we created the storylines, we made all the decision points, and our job was to review the courseware. Everything else that happened with our simulation was done by NextLearn. Now, what they were good with us doing was walking me through and telling me what they were doing, but I wasn't expected to actually do anything except for my task right there, which was 20% of the development of the simulation. So that was phase 1 of the sim.
And as you can see from the little graphic there, I highlighted the tasks that they were involved with, and generally they dealt with the reviews and little touch points like that. Whereas NextLearn took the lion's share of the project for the first one. We helped with creatively writing the storyline. We helped map the sim, put in decision points, and produce the final deliverable. And then the final product.
The final product ended up being a standalone simulation that the users can access after they do the required prerequisites. And the required prerequisites were to do webinar training. So it was a set of 4 webinar trainings, and towards the end, at the end, they were to access the sim and to go through, and they were given very intense questions about ag loans and putting ag loan situations as if we had assumed the bank and they were responsible for those loans.
Now part 2, we're going to learn the magic. I have cards here that I'm going to have passed around. If I can get to them, there they are. So that everybody can do the magic trick with us. And I've even got some little carrying cases. Go. Use go.
Thank you.
Is everybody here? Who else is going?
One or two? Just one. I think I've got two left. So you'll work together.
Okay.
Work from the same deck.
Yeah, you don't want that with me.
Okay.
You are an expert.
Yeah.
Quite often the trick is easier to see from my perspective, so I might try showing it up here. Okay. First off, each group has a little sleeve. It might look like it has a card in it. That's the biggest trick, is that it does not. The inside of it flips on and off. Okay, so you see no card here, but when you tap it down, you see a card, and it covers up the actual card that you have in.
So like from my perspective, I can see that you didn't have his card even on hand. It looked like you have it.
No, actually,
There you go.
I actually did. His card was in here, actually.
Oh, so I
and
was
it
seeing
hidden.
the image then,
Yes.
because I was seeing the
So
card.
you were seeing
Okay.
that,
That.
and then when I hit it,
Because he was like, it's my card, and I'm like, really?
No,
It looks like a different.
I should have shown it a little bit better. Okay, so that is one key component to the trick. The other key component is selecting the card. Now, there's any number of ways to do it. The way that I specifically did it was when I held the card up like this, I pulled down on the first one and lifted up the next three. And so when you said 1, 2, or 3, I put them all behind it. If you said 1, I would just put the card that you didn't see in the middle of the deck. And then I'd put the one after that in the card holder. And make it so that it's the 8, so that you could see that it wasn't the card that you picked. And whatever story you'd like to tell, you tell the story, get the card to the top. In this case, I did a little trickery to pretend like I wasn't doing it right. And then displayed your actual card. Okay, so everybody knows how to do that. And if you want to take a second to give it a try with your deck of cards. So follow along.
Show each other, like, try to do it with me too.
So follow along.
Alright, so just pick
Okay.
seven.
Number 1.
Number 3.
Anyway,
Okay.
I think you put that there.
Well, I'll take this one and I'll stick it in here.
So it's important. You're going to slide them all back. Slide them all back into the place.
We need the left side. We need the left side.
So she's
I take 3.
So what do I do with my?
You read it where it is. And so then you say pick 1, 2, 4 cards. And then pick 3, so you clap them all together.
Take it out.
And then
In the middle of the pile.
ready to put 3 Exactly.
And then what
what do I do with the one that's short?
This book is not long. So you can say, I magically moved the card. That can help tell the story. It's kind of a secondary script that I play. You
You are
can put
trying to confuse my brain. After having a benet and too much sugar, it's supposed to help it. It's supposed to help it.
you put the card back in here. And then when you lift it up, you're showing it. Other side. Yep.
Ready for this one? Yes! Time. Wait a minute.
You make it disappear by touching the top of the ball.
Is this your card? Oh, so you have to press the card.
It's basically there's a little sleeve inside here that shifts fairly up and down.
On your way home.
Yeah. It is.
Oh!
Magic.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Loosen up.
You can use that one. Thank you for your kids. Yeah.
So is that the card?
Once my card starts and so you can see that it's not your card.
They're brand new. So
I could make your card rise on
So, there's a magic trick. We showed you how to do it. And that's where phase 2 is.
So you see how you felt, even though Eric gave you some instructions and gave you the tools that you needed to work with, it was still a bit difficult, or did you feel a little uneasy? You weren't really quite sure. That's exactly, yeah, that's, okay. Perfect analogy. That's exactly how we felt as we moved from Lisa doing her initial simulation to me coming in and starting to do the second project of doing simulations. I had an awful lot of instructions from Eric and Kristen and Dean and other folks around, Cassie, working with me, and I had a manual and I had the software, and it was like, okay.
A little bit of magic if that was
It still seemed like a lot of magic. So we decided that we would start to enhance things, and we're going to move over, and out of there we came to do more of a 50%. Notice we basically had the same task, but now we had a different simulation. Lisa told you about the crisis. Well, we were still in the crisis, and at this point we realized that there were just so many facets of what we do in a banking crisis. So one of the things we do is when a bank closes, a bank owns a number of other companies. And those, those companies are subsidiaries of the bank. Even though the bank fails and it's closed, the companies don't fail. They continue on. Well, people at the FDIC have the responsibility of taking on those subsidiaries and running those companies until the FDIC can dispose of them in a proper manner. Well, can you imagine that we have lots of folks who are really skilled, and they're really skilled in lots of areas of business, but being a CIO or CEO of a company and running it as if it were their own isn't exactly anybody's skill set. So now we had to produce some training that very quickly could take these new folks, teach them how to run any number of companies simultaneously as if these companies were their own, and run them exceptionally well so that the FDIC did not lose money on these banks. So it was a tall task. How do we do that? Well, guess what? We did that through simulations. So how do we quickly create simulations that teach these people how to operate and run these companies while crisis is still going on and we haven't lost any more money? So we got a new program again. So what we did is we expanded we did a lot more of the storyline, in that we knew there were phases of a bank closing and phases of what we would do in order to run a company. We took that very basic scenario to NextLearn, and they helped us 50-50 create a simulation that was going to work. The development of the actual maps for the simulations, we divided this training, rather than have it be just as in Lisa's project. Her simulation was just a standalone product in and of itself. We said we have to put something around this, okay? It can't just stand alone. So it became more of a blended product. We modularized it, and we decided that, the simulation has to be just a portion of that module. And again, NextLearn was able to help us sort of create that framework and build the simulation around that. We also, the decision points and things, we started to create them ourselves because we knew what those major things should be at every step of that phase. And then we also knew that we had to get our learners to do a lot more critical thinking. They were going to have to make a lot more decisions, and so sometimes they were going to have enough information, sometimes they weren't going to have enough information. We also know the value of doing it wrong the first time and learning how to, correct those mistakes and put yourself on the right foot, because, hey, if you're the owner of a company, do you have anybody giving you all the answers, or do you have to try something? So again, through NextLearn's help, we were able to increase the branching, let people go down the wrong path in a controlled, safe environment, then give them the feedback after they've sort of learned the lesson and bring them back. So we were able to share that responsibility in that way. We, of course, did all the course reviews, and we approved the final product. But we truly moved the whole process down a meter, if you will, and we assumed more of the responsibility than we had done in the previous one. So not only did we expand the way in which we used and developed simulations in-house, we also expanded our own capability as we were going along the way. And the way we actually did it through this particular program is that we created 4 modules. NextLearn did the bulk of the work on the first one, a little less on the second one, a little less, and then at the 4th one, we were actually creating and doing an awful lot more, so that 50-50 just continued to go on.
And so you see there, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, so were all 4 modulars in the SimWriter program?
All 4 modules had a simulation built around it.
Okay, but you didn't, it wasn't like an entire e-learning in SimWriter with a simulation?
No. We actually use Lectora as our authoring tool, and so that was another way in which we expanded the apprenticeship. We had NextLearn work in conjunction with our programmers that were doing the Lectora as well. So we built the entire design around and gave it a very smooth handoff.
Okay, thank you.
So essentially, the Lectora held the simulation as one of the parts of the Lectora overall piece. So NextLearn took over less responsibility on this one. We did spend actually quite a bit of time working with them, showing them how to use SimWriter, showing them some of our thoughts, we started taking over more of the review type situations and less of the actual production.
And you did that through a number of ways.
That's right.
We spent a lot of time doing WebEx where they would give me homework and I'd have to do portions of it, and we'd get on the phone the next week and I would give the things that I'd done, and I actually went out and we did some on-site visits with them and sat down and looked over their shoulder, and they said, no, this isn't right, that isn't right, etc., until we got to a final product that worked.
Does NextLearn have a formal training program or tutorial that goes with the package?
The formal training, we do offer like a 2-day for professional training. We did the training session yesterday for simplicity. It was a shortened version yesterday. Yes?
Or three.
Or 3-day training was what I was being told by one of our head trainers. But yes, we do offer training along with the package.
And did you get that training?
We initially got a shortened version, a simplistic version of the training, and then we went in for more in-depth training.
I wasn't on board when they initially did it, so I had to learn it in sort of a catch-up mode afterwards.
And does the SimLearn training use SimLearn to train people on simulations by immersing them?
That's a great question, and that's a really good question.
I really asked you a question.
Yeah, it's
Well,
a great
it's well.
question, and I can tell you it's something that we put a lot of thought into, and it's something that we're moving towards. Right now, because the software is so hands-on and there's so many hard skills. It's not, I mean, there's so many places to click. It would be a really long training if you were just to do it, you know, just to do it in a simulation. It would be really long and probably maybe a little bit confusing. So it's something we put a lot of thought into and are continuing to think about. But as of now, no.
Yeah.
We're going to have simulations that augment training in the near future, and then we're going to kind of build upon those and see where it goes, and maybe eventually we'll have complete training for simulation.
My first semester at Florida State in the instructional design PhD program, I asked Bob Ranson, who was the inventor of modern ISD for the Army, why he didn't use ISD to teach his course. He gave me a lecture on how the fact that graduate students are supposed to be able to think more than they don't have to design things for them.
The cobbler has no shoes, I think.
One of the things we did do, though, we did bring NextLearn in-house. And yeah, the one where we did some in.
Yeah, I think Kristen and Eric and I were all in that actually.
Actually, there was one with one of our other trainers, Pat
Pat,
and I
right.
actually went
Yeah, and
on-site.
Eric,
So we do the on-site as well as you can come to our office.
And I'm not sure that you would use a driving simulation to train people to build a car.
No.
So there's some limitations
That's a
on
great
what
point.
That's a
simulations
great
can do for you.
That's a good
No,
one.
if you use a simulation of a internal combustion engine, to teach them the concept of the internal combustion engine.
You might do that, but that wouldn't necessarily let them build an engine.
Exactly.
It could let them think about building an engine. But then when,
But the apprenticeship is more performance driven.
Yeah.
So as you're going through it, you're going through every single step that you must do, and the value we'll kind of talk about at the end, but it is a simulation of the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the final product.
The final product, as I said before, was actually 4 modules that included an introductory module that was all the foundational types of concepts and terms that people would need in order to run a subsidiary. And then the other 3 mimic the phases that we actually go through with bank closing, pre-closing, bank closing, and post-closing. And the simulations, each one of the simulations was one of the major performance objectives of the phase. So it was truly teaching people how to perform something that was major that they needed to do at each of the phases of the process of running a simulation. So it worked beautifully.
Okay, phase 3, performing the magic. So you guys had an opportunity to do it along with us. Now you get a chance to do it again. Do your little magic trick. Show us how you're doing it, and we'll do the review, essentially, and that's what this phase of the process was. So
Grab your cards.
grab your cards, do it again, get some more practice.
You need to show us your trick.
And the practice, just like with the apprenticeship process, the practice does help a lot.
Pick a card.
Oh, any car?
Oh my God.
I just went on 21. I'm just
There's there.
I just got back.
We get to do a card trick?
You know,
Yeah, I would learn.
I'll take it.
You don't want you don't want me to say cards.
But I can watch
Okay, and that's the one that's.
Let's see, I think I'll pick the second card.
And then take that card and put it in there.
All right, so you got
I have one like this.
Oh, she's got it. Go ahead.
shifting tends to loosen up.
This
And
is
the first card was.
my cowboy girlfriend here. Her and I are
No, it's not.
Goes into it all.
Shuffle them up.
Yeah, I did. Like, oh no. I got cocky on that one.
Get off the cards.
Okay.
Just kind of do whatever you talk about, whatever. And you're kind of doing that and all that stuff. You know that you're supposed to pour it in.
There you go. Don't show me the cards. Just put them down. 1 and 2s.
That's how you can show that.
And then you can, goes that your card.
How about people put a money tree out there for us?
Yeah, okay, well, what about this one? Well, what about this?
Flip your, there you go. Like that.
Oh, when you push that.
No, that wasn't my card.
New Orleans.
Nope, that wasn't my card either. Oh, that was my card. Oh, very good, very good.
So that's why there's so much going on.
That's the other trick.
Okay, are we ready?
We are ready.
So, now, at the third level, now how do you feel? After you had a little training under your belt and Eric giving you a hand holding and walking you through it, how do you feel?
Great.
Lot better, huh?
This would be easy right there.
Well, that's basically, to come to phase 3, that's what we did. Lisa and I then joined forces and worked in a project, we worked on a project with her being the project lead and me being secondary, and we decided, wow, now's the time for us to really take a look at how much expertise we've gained and see if we can wean ourselves away just a little bit and do it a little bit better. So the FDIC has a number of courses that are designed, we call them the business line courses. And they are major overview courses that teach everybody at the FDIC what the various divisions do. It was time to redesign those, and we wanted to change our overall model and make them more immersive, more interactive, get people to do the things that the divisions do rather than just tell them what the divisions do. So we thought perfect opportunity in this particular project where we said, okay, now let's see if we can actually take the lead, create a simulation for one of the business line courses and see how that was going to work. And that's exactly what we did. In this instance, we took over 80% of all the work ourselves. We went through the same process that we had observed and been taught by NextLearn. We created our own storyline. We wrote our own scripts. We sent them to NextLearn and said, have we captured what it is? With, you know, they did a little tweaking and sent it back to us, and we went on to the next step. We actually developed the simulation maps ourselves. This time we understood branching. We knew what to do in order to create what we wanted. And as they looked over our shoulders, a lot of looking over our shoulder, huh, Aaron?
Quite a bit.
He taught us well. He taught us well. Question.
And just to clarify, the simulation map is what's over on the left side of the user interface when we're in.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it is.
Not
Yes.
the far left. The far left is the topic area to see your topics. It's the one. It's in
It's
the
the middle tab,
the-
but it
yes.
shows up on the left.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, which is really the crux of the whole
Mhm.
of the whole simulation. So once we kind of understood that and how to put that together, being able to use the tool and create them yourselves really solidifies it for you. It really does make a big difference. We at that point had put all the decision points together. We understood them. We understood where they would go. We understood how we would assess them. And we did the course review. Lisa and I, at the end when we had all of this together, we were able to go out to Kansas, spend a day, and actually finalize. Dean came in, helped with all the graphics based on the ideas that we had given them, and put together a final product.
So was the 20% that you guys did more to do with media? Or?
Perfect.
It was actually, what we did was we reviewed most of everything. We still did a little bit of the media just because they didn't have the facilities to shoot video. They didn't have things like that.
Yeah.
But as a part of the apprenticeship, we watched while they essentially did all the writing, they did all the mapping, they did all the planning for this course. We sat back and took a review, pretty much exact opposite roles from the very first stage.
And the final product this time, we expanded our blended approach again. So it was embedded into a modular fashion. What we did, since this was going to be an overview course, and since we were changing our delivery model to be more interactive, we created what we call vignettes, which gave high-level views, and then we created a personal coach, and that had more in-depth information. And we took one whole division or within our organization, and we created one of those entire modules was a simulation. So we had 5 other modules and one that was a simulation that was totally encompassed by the overall new concept. So we feel like we've made some pretty giant steps.
So one of the things that we noticed as we were going through this process is phase 1, of course, the costs were kind of up there because we're contracting out for services. But as we were going through the various phases, our costs were going down as well as our development time was going down. So that became a win-win situation. Not only did we develop in-house skills, but we were able to reduce some of the costs that we expended on the front side.
I have a quick question
Sure.
on your side. So, as a consultant coming into clients, we try to collaborate on do that. They say, "Oh, we are so booked on other things." Did you, on your 20% time, how much of your were you still doing 80% other kind of work, or were you more on this project more?
Oh yeah, we're always doing. We're always doing multiple. Yeah, but we were not devoted full time to doing this. Not at all. We have plenty. Our plate is full. This was just one of the many projects that we were working on.
And that's just something just to take into account in your planning and your project planning. I know that's one of the tricks at NextLearn is we've got multiple projects going on at once, and so I actually create those plans for us.
Yes.
So in order to do that, I've got to see how the resourcing is for everybody across maybe the 3, the 4, the 5 months that the project will last, and take that into account when I'm saying, okay, we're creating a sim map. Rather than giving you 3 days, I'm going to have to give you a week. So you've got to play around with that.
And Kathy worked really closely with us to do that, and to make sure, to watch that plan and to make sure it worked. And we reviewed that plan like on a weekly basis to see if something slipped, how is it going to affect the other thing, or the other things, you know, where the points were. So it was a, just as you do time management and project management for your other projects, you have to watch it very closely. But the other thing for you to remember is we were both novices when we started. We had never used SimWriting before, and we had not produced a workplace simulation before. And now we've created it from soup to nuts. We have happy clients.
Well, you got to be careful on your happy clients because somebody, you know, no one really wants to be one of your clients. So.
You guys have us all wrong. We're an insurance company.
And that's our presentation.
Yeah.
We do need to, everybody gather your personal belongings because they will be resetting the room. If you do have additional questions, feel